This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. I feel like we overthinking this, man. Like... I think there are some very obvious things in front of us that tell us the direction of where this is going to go. And, you know, the reason I wanted to make this video is Deshaun Watson threw publicly in front of the media today for the first time since missing the season for having that injury to his shoulder, the glenoid fracture, all of that. And immediately, we could not help ourselves but to do the meme. And what I mean by doing the meme is analyzing every throw Deshaun Watson did today like it's the Zapruder film, like it's all 22 tape when it's just practice. I saw people upset and he missed the throw to Elijah Moore. I saw people getting excited about throws he was making. And again, I'd urge people not to overthink about what those throws look like. Just that he is throwing the ball tells you that that shoulder injury is healed. He is working his way back through whatever plan that the team has. That's most definitely going to be a conservative plan, right? To make sure that they don't run into the season, to roll into the season with any issues, and that he's fine. He's healthy. He's healed. He'll be fine by the start of the season. He's throwing. It's May. The season doesn't start till September. He's clearly good. He's fine. So just saw a lot of people having reactions to that, being mad because somebody posted a video clip, being mad because someone's reacting to the video clip. And I'm just here to remind you, they is shorts and a t-shirt, brother. You don't got to react to any of it if you don't want to. But this goes back to my main point, man. I really think people are overthinking this. I think with Deshaun Watson in general, people have a tendency to overthink it for obvious reasons, right? Deshaun Watson does not have a neutral persona off the field. He does not have a neutral reputation. He has a reputation that tends to intensify whatever people think about him, and it's usually in the negative direction. All of these things you can argue are Deshaun Watson's own fault, and I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that they aren't his own fault. But this is just the reality of Deshaun Watson and covering Deshaun Watson, is that there's going to be a lot of overreactions. There's going to be a lot of people overthinking it. And I think when it comes to somebody like this, it's important to not overthink the situation. And that's what I try to do. I try to look at this thing and not overthink it. And it's clear to me that people have overthought this whole Deshaun Watson thing, right? Why are we arguing about whether he's throwing perfectly in practice in May? Who do we do this for? Who do we care throws perfectly in May? Not a single quarterback do we care if they are throwing the ball accurately in May. And like the thing is, every clip that came out with Deshaun Watson was pretty accurate throws, except for like one. And we're focusing. Who does that for what? Does that not feel like overthinking to y'all? Does this not feel like over analysis to y'all? Because it does to me, right? We should not be charting anything or caring about what anything is charted like in May. We really shouldn't. The season is 4 months away. That being said, people are overthinking everything. And I think that goes now to even how Deshaun Watson will play this year. And this is the most overthought thing out of all the overthought Deshaun Watson things, in my opinion. I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty obvious to anybody who's willing to look at this fairly that if Deshaun Watson stays healthy, Deshaun Watson will probably be pretty good. Now, there are some people who don't want to admit this for a number of reasons. Some people don't want to admit this because if Deshaun Watson plays good or if he is perceived as being a top 10 quarterback, it completely invalidates any of the anger that they had about moving on from Baker Mayfield, right? There's still some people who want to hang on to that anger. And this is why you have Browns fans who actively root against the success of the Browns, because any success that the Browns have with Deshaun Watson at quarterback completely invalidates their take that they had on Baker Mayfield. And it goes into this annoying shit where people are rooting for their takes and to be right more than they're rooting for the team that they care about. And it just exhausts me to think about, right? Because I could not imagine me and my ego being so strong that I would root for a team to fail just so I can be right, especially when I claim to care about that team and that fan base. But that's a whole different point aside. Right? People trying to get their Baker Mayfield points aside or their takes off about who they don't like on the staff or whatever it is. That's all aside. Why do I think Deshaun Watson is clearly in tune for a breakout year this year, right? Because I don't think that's a common take. I think it's a common take to those who pay attention, but I don't think it's a common take to a lot of people. Why do I feel this way? I have 3 reasons on why I feel that Deshaun Watson will more than likely have a bounce back. 1, health. He's healthy. He's coming back from the shoulder injury. He's free of any long-term concern. Like, this seems like he dodged a bullet with his throwing shoulder, that this did not happen in a lot of the tragic ways that we've seen throwing shoulder injuries happen, right? A lot of times, some of these athletes, when they injure their shoulder, do long-term damage to that shoulder. As far as the muscle tissue that's involved with that, it seems like he avoided doing any of that damage, and then he just broke a bone in his throwing shoulder. And it seems that that bone has fully been able to recover without any real issues. So if that's the case, he's back. He's not throwing with a brace. Like, he's really only throwing with limitations just so they can kind of pitch count him going into the season. It's May. He's throwing the football. He's fine. He also, I think, has had the opportunity over the last 3 years to be a lot more healthy mentally. Look, I'm not trying to pull sympathy for Deshaun Watson to those who don't feel any sympathy for him. But the truth is with Deshaun Watson is that even if these issues were his own doing and a consequence of his own malice behavior, they were still things that took a mental toll on him. And I think that mental toll was obvious. I remember talking to people who covered the team, and they would say, hey, look, Deshaun Watson would look fine 2 days in practice, and then like a news of a case drops, and all of a sudden he shows up to practice and he's distracted. Right? When these kind of things are going on about your name, when your reputation has gone from golden boy to guy we really don't want to talk about at all, that's going to have an effect on your psyche. He's had 3 years to come to grips and to accept what his new reputation is, how people perceive him, and how that changes how he has to move about in the world. And I think he's found his peace with that, or at least he's closer to finding his peace with that, which is going to make him a better football player because, like, let's be real about it, man. That first year felt awkward for a lot of reasons. Yeah, he was rusty physically, but it felt like mentally he was at a very weird place. And the further and further and further away he gets from that whole situation, hopefully the more progress he makes as a person growing from that whole situation, if it's possible. The second thing on why I think Deshaun Watson will be a much better quarterback this year is support. I think you can make the argument, and it would be a pretty convincing argument, that Deshaun Watson this year has the most support he's ever had in football since his days at Clemson. Like, relative to the teams he's playing, he has some of the best support in the NFL. We talk about it. Outside of your offensive line as a quarterback, the biggest area of support you can have is your defense. We saw this with Pat Mahomes last year. Pat Mahomes had a great defense, horrible wide receivers, won a Super Bowl. Why? Because a defense does wonders for you. Deshaun Watson is a perfect example of what can happen to you if your defense stinks, by the way, because Deshaun Watson had one of the best seasons that we've seen recently. Definitely one of the most efficient seasons. Had almost 5,000 yards with minimal passing attempts, minimal offensive snaps, with incredible efficiency, right? Like averaged the highest yards per attempt while also leading the league in completion percentage. Things that don't happen very often, even amongst the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And yet that team won 4 games. Why? Because the defense was equally as bad as he was good that year as far as coverage and rushing, because they gave up what he got 4,800 yards. They gave up 4,500 yards passing. He got 33 touchdowns. They gave up 30 touchdowns. He threw 7 interceptions. They only got 3 interceptions. And when it comes to the run game, they gave up over 2,500 yards. I believe somewhere in the range of like 22 or 23 touchdowns on the ground. Like, when your defense is bad, you're not going to have success, even when you have the best at the quarterback position, which to me tells me it's one of the most important things a quarterback needs, because if you can't win with a great quarterback if you don't have a good offensive line, and you can't win with a great quarterback if you have a bad defense. You just can't. Moral of the story, defense matters, and defense matters a hell of a lot more than people make it out to be. Your number one support is going to be defense. Deshaun Watson might have the best defense in the NFL, might have one of the best defenses in NFL history, at least in the last 10 years, depending on how they play this year. Receivers, they're much better this year, right? You get Jerry Jeudy, so you just take pressure off of Amari Cooper. You're going to hopefully utilize David Njoku and Jordan Atkins a little bit better. And then you also have Elijah Moore there. I know just adding the one body makes everything better, but if you relegate some of these guys to smaller roles like Cedric Tillman, I think they will even get better. Once they're asked to do less, it'll make their transition to doing anything on the offense a little bit easier, and you're not worried about a young player not being where he's supposed to be, because you're just not asking that young player to do any of that stuff because you don't got to. It's very important there. All right. Another area of support is coaches. They brought in Ken Dorsey. I think this is a very underrated move that the Cleveland Browns have done that not enough people have talked about. Look at Ken Dorsey's track record. Look at the quarterbacks he's worked with. Look who he's gotten the success out of. People give the credit to Brian Daboll for what Josh Allen did. But look at what Brian Daboll has done outside of New York. I mean, not New York, but the Buffalo Bills. Look what he's done. It's not like Daniel Jones has turned into anybody who looks any different than Daniel Jones. They just paid him like he wasn't Daniel Jones. Don't sound like somebody who's like a quarterback genius to me. I think that Ken Dorsey had a lot more to do with that than he got credit for. From what it seems like, he worked with Cam Newton. Cam Newton got better. He worked with Josh Allen. Josh Allen got better. Do the math with Deshaun Watson. I think that similar thing is going to happen with Deshaun Watson this year. All right, the third thing is that I think enough time has passed. I think enough time has passed for him. I think enough time has passed for the team. I think he's had enough games back. I think he's practiced enough back that we really shouldn't be out here worrying about if he's rusty or if he's going to come back clean. He has been a regular NFL football player these last couple of years. He hasn't been able to put the consecutive games down together that you would want him to do, but I'm confident that if he stayed healthy at the end of 2023, he would have put down some pretty good numbers, had some pretty good games, and the Browns would have been really competitive, if not in the second round of the playoffs, threatening to get to the AFC Championship game, if not in the AFC Championship game, threatening to get to the Super Bowl. This team is notably better when Deshaun Watson is at the quarterback position. Just is the truth. They are much better. They win games by larger margins. Their defensive performances are up. Their offense is a little bit more efficient. They don't turn the ball over as much. They're just a better team when Deshaun Watson is out there. The reason Deshaun Watson has a winning win-loss record is traced back to his play. I know a lot of people try to hit you with this lie that Deshaun Watson has nothing to do with any of the wins that he has gotten as a Cleveland Brown. But really, ask yourself, does that make any sense? When you go back and watch the games, do you feel like he's not a part of the victory? Or do you feel like you're doing a lot of work to make that not the case? It's obvious. Deshaun Watson played well last year. If he got to play versus that lighter half of the schedule, he probably would have put up good numbers. I think he was on the verge of playing well, and now they adjusted the offense to fit around what he does more comfortably and what he does better. He's going to probably be pretty good. Now, where he sits on that pretty good spectrum, right, could be anywhere from Jalen Hurts to, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. He has the potential to be anywhere between there. I think he will be somewhere in that spectrum. I think it's clear to me that Deshaun Watson will be good this year. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.